Welcome to the Charleston Trident MLS Rules and Regulations. Today we will be going over various definitions, rules, and regulations for you to be able to use the multiple listing service efficiently and properly. There are different types of listings that are allowed in the MLS. One is called an exclusive agency. In exclusive agency, the seller retains the right to sell without paying a commission. For an exclusive right to sell or lease listing, this is an agreement where the seller's broker will receive a commission from the seller, regardless of who brings the buyer into the purchase. Now, this is different from an exclusive agency listing, in which the seller reserves the right to sell the property on her own without paying a commission to her agent. The following listing types could be exclusive agency or exclusive right to sell: co-listings, in which both parties must be a participant or subscriber; limited service listings, where the listing broker gives the cooperating broker specific authority to show and/or negotiate directly; and office exclusive listings, when the seller does not want their listing to be listed in the MLS. There are three types of listings that are not allowed in the MLS. Open listings, which are listings that use multiple real estate agents in order to sell, and whichever agent sells the property collects the commission. Net listings. Under a net listing, the broker can offer the property for sale at the highest price obtainable to increase the commission. This type of listing is illegal in the state of South Carolina. And lastly, duplicate listings that are not co-listed with a different company are also not allowed in the MLS. Let's move on to commission versus compensation. Commission is between the seller and the listing broker. It is strictly negotiable and there are no normals. Compensation is the percent or dollar amount offered to other MLS participants for their services in the sale or lease of a listing. Legal South Carolina buyer representative types are as follows: buyer's agent compensation, the amount of compensation offered to a salesperson acting as a buyer agent in a transaction; sub-agent compensation, the amount of compensation offered to a salesperson acting as a sub-agent in a transaction; transaction broker compensation, the amount of compensation offered to a salesperson acting as a transaction broker in a transaction. There are rules to how compensation is set up inside of the MLS. The three available compensation fields in the MLS are required fields, and at least one field should contain a value greater than 0. Values should be entered as a percentage of the gross selling price or a definite dollar amount. There is also a field entitled Variable Compensation. You would mark variable compensation with a Y, which means yes, if the list agent or company commission is different should the listing be sold in-house. And this is for the residential side of the MLS only. When you are using variable compensation, the listing agent doesn't need to reveal the total commission, but must reveal the advantage as a percentage or dollar amount, which may differ depending on the type of agency. Variable compensation is between the seller and the listing brokerage. Per mandated MLS policy, the MLS shall not fix, control, recommend, suggest, or maintain the division of commissions or fees between cooperating participants or between participants and non-participants. There are several statuses that you should be aware of and familiar with inside of Flex MLS. Active means the listing is available for showing and sale. If the status is active contingent, it means that a contract has been ratified on that listing, but there are contingencies that must be met before it can close. Pending means the contract has no contingencies and is ready to close. Closed means the listing has been sold and closed. Temporarily off-market means the listing is unavailable to show for more than 7 days. The listing agreement is still valid in effect during this period. Canceled means the listing has been permanently taken off the market. Rented means the property has been rented. And expired means the period of employment on the listing agreement has run out. Let's move on to listing guidelines. Residential listings must be available to show. They must be available to all agents within 7 calendar days of MLS entry, other than proposed construction or under construction. Listings already on the market that become unavailable to show for more than 7 days must be put into a temporarily off-market status by the listing agent. Listing photos. Licensees must obtain proper license for any photos that they do not own. This includes photos taken from the internet, such as photos of the amenities on a subdivision's website. If you wish to use another agent's photos from a previous listing, you must get written permission from the agent and the photographer if applicable. Recommended practice is to take all listing photos yourself or hire a photographer and obtain proper documentation for use. Questions should be directed to your broker in charge and/or the MLS. Listing entry. Residential listings must be entered into the MLS within 2 business days, Monday through Friday, of the listing agreement date. For example, if the listing agreement date is a Friday, the listing would need to be entered by midnight on the following Tuesday. The weekend is not factored into the count. Now we're moving on to a section entitled Listing Penalties and Fines. Accuracy in your listing input is very important. If you do not follow the rules, you may be subject to a penalty or fine. Let's go over a few of those. For listing entry, listings must be entered into the MLS within 2 business days of the effective date on the listing agreement. Late entries will incur a $50 fine. Repeated violations will result in a meeting with the MLS Board of Directors and possible censure, fine, suspension, or termination. Contact information. Personal contact information, names, phone numbers, email addresses, company name, website information, social media contact information, or open houses may not be entered into remarks, directions, photos, or virtual tours. This includes such comments as contact listing agent for additional information. Offending content will be removed immediately and participant broker in charge will be fined $250. If re-entered, the listing will be withdrawn. Potential financing information. Proposed financing information should be disclosed through the dedicated fields and may not be entered into the public remarks. This includes the names of financing programs for which the listing may qualify for and contact information for lenders. Your participant broker in charge will be fined $50 for the violation. Any content of rules violation will be removed immediately and the listing agent will be notified. Inaccurate information. When there is intentional inaccuracy in required fields, the participant broker in charge will be fined $125 if not corrected after 2 business days of notification by the MLS staff. If the listing is not corrected within those 2 days after original notification, the MLS staff will correct the inaccuracy. Some examples of inaccurate information would be incorrect area, tax map number, schools, etc. Directions. Directions must be for the property address listed and not the sales center or model home. Directions to the sales center or model home may only be given in the agent notes. The participant broker in charge will be fined $50 for violation of the direction rules. Any content violation of the rule will be removed immediately and the listing agent notified. If content is re-entered, the listing will be placed under temporarily off-market status. Photo entry. All listings should have photos in the MLS within 5 business days of the effective date of listing. 1 photo must be of the front of the building. Rentals must also have at least 1 photo of the front of the building. If the photos are not uploaded within 5 business days of listing input date, the participant broker in charge will be fined $50 for violation. There are exceptions to this rule. Any seller may opt out of photo representation of their home. You must have proper documentation. And under construction and land listings are not required to have photos. Photo content. Images may not contain people, pornographic material, or logos, including yard signs of any nature. The offending content will be removed immediately and the listing agent notified if you are in violation. The participant broker in charge will be fined $50 for said violation. Seller's disclosure. Sellers are required to provide a seller's disclosure prior to the buyer signing an offer. All residential listings should have a seller's disclosure or exemption uploaded to the MLS within 5 days of the effective date of listing. If not, the participant broker in charge will be fined $50 for violation of the rules for seller's disclosure. Exceptions to this rule: those listings exempt from the seller's disclosure law are also exempt from these policies. Sellers can direct their listing brokerage to not upload the seller's disclosure to the MLS as well. Lead-based paint disclosure. Sellers are required to provide a lead-based paint disclosure on properties built before 1978 prior to the buyer signing an offer. A properly executed lead-based paint disclosure is required and should be uploaded to the MLS within 5 business days for all residential listings built before 1978. If not, your participant broker in charge will be fined $50 for violation of the rules for lead-based paint disclosure. Sellers can direct their listing brokerage to not upload the lead-based paint disclosure to the MLS as well. Agent reports. There are 2 types of reports you have access to inside of the MLS: private agent reports and public customer reports. MLS-generated reports designated as agent reports contain confidential information that may not be shared with the public. If you share an agent report with someone in the public, your participant broker in charge will be fined $500 for the first offense and subject to suspension of membership privileges for 6 months for a second offense at the discretion of the MLS Board of Directors. Again, private agent reports may only be given to other MLS agents, not to the general public, clients, or customers. Public reports or customer reports may be given to anyone in the general public. Misrepresentation of status other than closed. If a listing is not corrected within 2 business days after original notification, the participant will be fined $250 for failing to update the status of a listing. An example of this would be a listing that still shows active in the MLS, but is actually under contract and should be AC or pending. Misrepresentation of closed status. If the listing is not corrected within 5 business days after original notification, the participant will be fined $250 for failing to update the status of a listing. An example would be a listing that is active contingent or pending or active but should be closed. You will have access to these in the MLS Rules and Regulations, which will be available to you on our website. Let's look at a few other listing terms and definitions. Extensions. Should you wish to extend your listing agreement, you may do so before the expiration date or within 30 days of the expiration date, and you can keep the same MLS number. If it is more than 30 days past expiration, you must have a new listing agreement, input a new listing, and you will receive a new MLS number. DOM stands for days on market. This is the number of days that the listing has been on market under the current MLS number. CDOM, cumulative days on market. This is the total number of days the listing has been on market. Showings. Showing scheduling is done through showing time or the listing broker. An exception may occur if the listing broker gives the cooperating broker specific authority to show and/or negotiate directly. Negotiations. Negotiations for listings in the MLS are conducted through the listing broker. An exception may occur if the listing broker gives the cooperating broker specific authority to show and/or negotiate directly. MLS security. MLS login credentials and SentryLock smart cards must not be shared with anyone else, even if they are licensed. MLS members who share these will be fined $1,000 for the first offense and subject to suspension of membership privileges for 6 months for a second offense at the discretion of the MLS Board of Directors. Smart cards are only available for actively licensed real estate professionals. This concludes the Rules and Regulations video. To proceed with the course, please click the arrow on the right.